All right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome back. Welcome back. Wanted to first thank you all for joining us for the first portion of our panel discussion, which was "What is your issue?" We are now transitioning over to breaking down the ballot. As you all know, you've seen it televised each and every day. Uh, we are currently in unprecedented times, and we have a huge election coming up in November, and we can't afford to sit on the sidelines. And so we have subject matter experts that are going to be breaking down the ballot and what you can expect this upcoming election right around the corner. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start off by introducing my wonderful panelists. I am going to start off with Mr. Vincent D. Harrington. Mr. Harrington serves as the Director of Admissions for Bishop McLemore High School. He's a proud alumnus and graduate of the class of 2009. Born and raised in Prince George's County, Maryland, Vincent has spent his adult life serving the community and certainly strengthening our youth. Furthermore, he has also worked as the community developer with the Youth at Work Outreach as a Youth at Work Outreach Coordinator for Prince George's County. Moreover, as a former member of the Prince George's County Democratic Central Committee, Vincent is honored to have been inducted into the Phi Alpha Alpha Honor Society as he earns his master's in public administration from the illustrious Bowie State University, having received his Bachelor of Arts in Communications from the University of Maryland College Park. He is a member of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. Our next distinguished panelist is Janae Lee. Miss Lee graduated from Trinity Washington University in 2018. She is currently a student at Bowie State University, earning a master's degree in public administration with the concentration in human resources. She is a retired Army combat veteran who has served during Operation Enduring Freedom in 2012 as a 31 Bravo, which is a military police officer in which she helped train Afghan women. She is a wife, a proud wife, and mother of two very active boys, Collins, who was 5, and Jackson, who was 1. She is currently a resource manager for Tanix, hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, Technologies. She serves as the Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated Beta Zeta chapter. She's the Veteran Initiative Chair and the Mothers of Vision and Purpose Legislative Co-Chair. She hopes to use her experience at Bowie State University to advance her human resource initiatives in her workplace. And last but certainly not the least, I am going to reintroduce everybody to Miss Monica Roebuck. Again, Miss Monica Roebuck is a native of gorgeous Prince George's County. She received a Bachelor's of Arts degree from Howard University, HU, and a Master's in Teaching from the illustrious Bowie State University in 1999. She is the founder and CEO of Community Solutions Consulting Services, which is a newly formed LLC that provides educational, political, and business consulting to those in the community. Monica has worked for Prince George's County Public Schools for 20 years as a classroom educator. During her tenure, she has worked as a mentor and leader in the school system. Most recently, in 2019, she was appointed to the Prince George's County Board of Elections. And in this position, she is responsible for overseeing county and statewide elections. She was also appointed to the Democratic Committee for Voter Engagement and Voter Protection. In this role, she works to prevent voter suppression and disenfranchisement, and to educate the community about the voting process. In statewide collaboration, Ms. Roebuck has worked to expand the vote to incarcerated citizens and pretrial detainees. Through her efforts, she has helped to increase voting to hundreds of individuals. So with that being said, I would like to introduce you all to our panel. How's everybody doing, and welcome?
Great.
Thank you. Doing well.
All right, so we're going to start off the first part of our discussion with Mr. Harrington and Miss Lee, in which you all will break down the ballot and then take questions and answers, or take questions and then reply with answers. So I'm going to give the floor to you all.
Awesome. Appreciate that, Jawan. So, as we start, again, a pleasure to be speaking with everyone on this call. As a former elected official in Prince George's County, seeing this citizen engagement, especially youth engagement, is so crucial, right? And so, as we go forward, we're going to be talking about breaking down the ballot. And so, what exactly does that mean? We're going to actually assist you, right? So this event is amazing through the leadership that you guys have here at Bowie State to make you aware and cognizant about the voting process, the different nuances that surrounding that. And so this is not going to be a situation where voting is going to be intimidating or daunting. So to actually start off, we're going to pull up a useful resource for you called Ballotpedia. This is going to be an interface that we're going to encourage you all to be able to use throughout your time in the voting process. So we're going to actually have our screen be displayed up here to show you guys that site. Awesome. So we can start, we can either start here in the state of Maryland or we can start with New York first. Let's start with New York. We have it up here. We can start here. That's not a problem. So we effectively just want to be able to showcase to you, and I'll be really quick on New York, and then we'll go ahead and put in a setting that takes place within the state of Maryland. So what you'll be able to do is, especially if you're a student that's out of state, is be able to insert your address here within this function and simply type view ballot. Once you connect on that, you'll click. Awesome. And so what you see presented to you is, as an individual who lives at 564 West Street, you'll be able to see the candidates that you would actually be able to tout your vote for. So naturally, the presidential election, you see the incumbent, as well as the Democratic Party, Green Party, and then the Independents and Libertarians. So really being able to showcase all those who you might be able to cast your vote for. Additionally, you'll see the congressional seats, as well as the state Senate seats, and we'll continue to flush all the way through, and then our Supreme Court jurisdictions, and then you'll conclude with your New York County. So we'll quickly pivot back and we'll be able to actually insert a location that you might be more familiar with some of the candidates, and that is a location in Maryland. So we'll pull back up the site Ballotpedia, and we'll actually insert in 6800 Marlboro Pike, Forestville, Maryland. So this is going to be a jurisdiction and designation here in Maryland. And so when we press view ballot for this, and again, same type of functionality. Now, I'm pretty sure you guys have potentially seen question 2 signs around where you might live, right? So question 1, it speaks about the legislative authority, right? This is effectively to vote to authorize the Maryland General Assembly to be able to increase, decrease, and add items to the state budget, right? This is directly an effect of COVID, because as it stands right now, the legislators, they can only cut from the budget and not add to it. Right. So this process and this website is going to allow you to be extremely learned within the process, not just you being vigilant, understanding the presidential elections, but also being able to drill down for some additional topics. Right. So we'll pivot out, and then you'll see the question 2. And question 2 is pertaining to sports betting. Right. And so these funds are supposed to be going to, education, and it tells you what a vote for yes means, what a vote for no means, and then essentially when it was drafted, what is the overview, the ballots, some great information for you all to be able to digest, right? And again, short readings and not a lot that's going to be intimidating for you all to be able to adjust and digest. Okay, so we'll pivot back out. And so you'll see again, presidential nominees. As we go forward, I'm actually going to click on Anthony Brown, who will be next, right? So you have your congressional seat. So if we click on Anthony Brown, who's the incumbent, you'll actually be able to see his information, right? His bio, his tenure, what he's been able to accomplish, and that's for every single candidate. So for you guys to, again, be learned within the process, you see a name, you see a sign, to be able to come here and actually drill down is so important. And so as a function of this, really being able to go back and tell your friends and being able to kind of be encouraged about different candidates is something that we want to be able to create today. So I'm going to pivot for a second to Janine to be able to to jump in and give some additional insight before we pass it over to Miss Monica Roebuck, who's going to continue to talk about the casting of your vote and how important that is. Janine, if you want to jump in.
Thank you so much, Vincent. You did a wonderful job explaining that. And matter of fact, you taught me today because I had no clue that website existed. But ironically, today I was able to go into my mailbox, and if you could see, I sort of got some information just from a party, and it showcased, from the county's perspective, everyone who's running and who falls within that party. So this is the Democratic sample ballot, and everyone within the county receives sort of flyers like this that are readable and understandable. So if you know that you want to vote for the Democratic Party all the way through, it'll tell you what to select on these kind of mail samples. As well, in the mail, Prince George's County does a great job at sending out the official sample ballot. And with that, just like what Vincent said, it gives you the options in English and in Spanish as to how to proceed with your vote this year, which is great. It provides all of the early election voting centers on here, if you can see that. And it is very readable, all the addresses and important phone numbers that you would need just to know, okay, how do I submit my vote and who do I vote for this year? Again, they gratefully run through all of the candidates within Prince George's County on up to the state and eventually to the presidential level. Now with this, I think it helps, some of our family members have a better understanding. Those who are not so technological savvy with the computer, with showing, the site that Vincent showed, to be able to give them some readable material up until even the day of the election. And, one of the good things about this is that you can write notes and you can see as many questions that may have signs that have the questions out in the county area, or any information just from looking on the news. You're able to jot that down if that helps you narrow down as to whom you're going to vote for. So examples such as that and that my colleagues shared are some of the examples that I think we lean on to understand about who we're going to vote for, not just in this season, but with every season. Juan, any thoughts on that?
Hey, no thoughts on it. I think that you all broke it down very well. I personally use Ballotpedia. As far as the sample ballots, I think the sample ballots are great. I just tell people all the time, though, I think the best resource that you all mentioned for them to really focus on is that Ballotpedia, because for some of the students that don't know, there are people that put together a sample ballot. When I ran for office in 2018, I had my own sample ballot as well. But I think you covered everything. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Well, if you all don't, Mr. Harrington, did you have anything else?
No, just again, excited to be here. And really, as you go through the process, if there is a leader that you really feel comfortable with, whether that be the governor, the state's attorney, and you find faith in them, they will a lot of times issue out ballots. So if you're kind of unsure about the drill down, but you have faith, say, Jawan is running and you really like him and you trust him, he might have a sample ballot for you. And so you could potentially vote down according to his leadership and some of the insight and relationships that he has. So that's another third option for you all to be able to consider.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Harrington. Now I am going to transition to Ms. Roebuck.
Good evening, everybody. I'm so excited to be here to talk about this upcoming election. I want to thank Juwan and Monica Turner and Janae Carpenter for the invitation to be here to talk about this upcoming election. And we are less than 30 days away, so I'm super excited about this. And so this is one of the most important elections of our time. And so we cannot take this for granted. And it has been said over and over again that our ancestors have protested, they've sacrificed, they've suffered and died. And so we cannot take this for granted. It's extremely important that we exercise our right to vote. So I'm going to be talking about casting your ballot and then also securing your vote. And so this election, we're in the middle of COVID-19. So we have to obviously remember that virus has not gone away. And so I'm, saying to everyone, make sure that you have your election day vote plan. Make sure you know how you're going to vote, when you're going to vote, and where you're going to vote. There are 500,000 people that are registered in Prince George's County, and we've already had, I believe, about 200,000 that have requested ballots. And so I think this is going to be a very high voter turnout. And because of COVID-19, we've had to reduce the number of polling places that we have. And so we have 41 polling places across the county. And so as a result of the smaller number, we're going to have long lines. So vote by mail. Why stand in line if you don't have to? If you don't have to stand in line, then go ahead and request your ballot. October the 20th is the deadline to request your ballot. And then go ahead and get your ballot and drop it off at the drop box. There will be several drop boxes across the county. Dropping it off at the drop box will allow you to circumvent the U.S. Postal Service. So there will be delays with the U.S. Postal Service. So that route I would not take personally. I would say drop it in a drop box. It goes directly to the Board of Elections. So the drop boxes will be at every high school with polling place. It will also be at the early voting center polling places, but it will also be at the Board of Elections, Mercantile Lane. I just want to say something about the sample ballots, and this is probably the teacher in me coming out. The only sample ballot that the original and the real sample ballot is from the Board of Elections. The Board of Elections sends out a ballot that you can look at that will have all of the candidates listed. Anything else that you get from the mail is propaganda, it's literature, it's someone trying to tell you to vote for them. And like I tell my students, you have to do the research for yourself. Don't let anybody steal your vote. Don't let anyone tell you who to vote for. You need to go to the websites that were mentioned, Ballotpedia, votesmart.org, vote.org. Okay, so I just want to throw that out there because I don't want anyone to be misled or confused about who to vote for or who people are. You need to do the research for yourself, and you need to ask around about candidates and attend sessions like this. This is so important because education about the voting process is critical to us voting. In addition to us being registered, I think the education piece is even more important because you can be registered, but if you're not educated about how to vote and when to vote and all that, then you're not going to vote. So this is extremely important. So I'm so happy that Bowie State University put this event together. So you've heard probably something about absentee voting and mail-in voting. They're one and the same. They're actually passing legislation. It's now called mail-in voting. Okay, so that's when you get your ballot in the mail and you can mail it off. You don't have to go into a polling place. And so how the process works is, again, with your election day vote plan. You get your ballot in the mail, you complete it and fill it out with black ink, okay, not blue or not pencil. And then after you fill it out, make sure you sign it. Sign your ballot because a lot of ballots get rejected because they are not signed. Your ballot will not be counted unless it's signed. Now, in times past, they would call you if your ballot wasn't signed. Now, because of the number of ballots, I don't know if we're going to have time to call people to say, hey, Joanne, you didn't sign your ballot because we got 200,000-300,000 ballots. So do us a favor, make sure your ballot is signed so that it's not rejected and sitting in a container and not being counted. So after you sign it, put it in a prepaid envelope. That's all you have to do is prepaid. And then after that, you're going to drop it either in a drop box, which is like a huge mailbox, or you're going to drop it in the mail. Okay. And so again, there are drop boxes all throughout the county. The drop boxes will be secure. So I don't want anyone to worry about that. The drop boxes will have a sheriff or a police officer there. And we have to do that because we know how important these ballots are. They're extremely, extremely important. If our vote wasn't important, people wouldn't be trying to take it. So it's an extremely important thing. And so they will have officers with a drop box throughout the county for 24 hours a day. Let's see. So if you don't want to do the mail-in voting, because some people are just old school and they say, well, I have to go into the polling place. Okay, well, just be ready for a long line, pack your lunch, pack your dinner, pack a snack, because there probably will be lines when you go. I would say go in the slow periods between 10 and 3 when people are probably going to be at work. Okay, go and do that slow period. If you don't want to go during that time. So early voting is October the 26th. That's 2 weeks from now. October the 26th through November the 2nd. Make sure that you know those days. You can share them with your friends and family so that they know when they can vote. Let me mention also, if you, let's say you decide that you want to vote by mail, but then on election day, you don't want to vote by mail, you want to go in and cast a ballot. If you cast a ballot, then it's going to be counted as a provisional ballot, and you don't want that to happen. You want to make sure that you're voting the way that you signed up to do, which is if you vote by mail, then you vote by mail, because if you go in and try to cast a ballot, then it's going to be counted as a provisional ballot. Provisional ballots are counted, but they're counted last. So after you, if you don't do mail-in, then you can go to early voting. Okay, on election day is November the 3rd. Polls are going to be open from 7 a.m. until 8 p.m. Okay, and so the polling places now are the high schools. You can go into the high schools, any high school, similar to early voting, where you just go in and you cast your ballot. And we have some new polling places because of COVID-19. The Board of Elections wanted to open up larger venues. And the reason why I mentioned too that there'll be long lines is because we still have to maintain social distancing, right? Because we're still within the midst of a pandemic, a global pandemic that has hit our state and our county particularly hard. So we have to maintain this social distancing and only allow a certain number of people in the polling places. But the great news is that there will be a polling place at Bowie State University. I'm super excited about that. I'm going to have to go on campus through the early voting. It's going to be at the James Gym. Okay, so that's where the polling place will be for Bowie State students. So spread the word. The James Gym is where it's going to be. The other big polling places are FedEx Field. There's also going to be one on the University of Maryland, Xfinity Center, and the Showplace Arena. So there are some big venues. We do have a lot of options within our county. So I'm grateful that we were able to secure these locations so people can vote. But again, you need to make sure that you set aside time, because there will be lines, because we have to socially distance everyone. I think.
Hey, Monica.
Yes.
I did have one question coming from YouTube, if that's okay.
Yeah. Yep. I was just
Okay.
getting ready to stop.
Oh, no, too easy. Thank you. Thank you so much, Monica. So the question that we received is, person said, I just heard that some ballots were stolen in Virginia. How did this happen if there were supposed to be police officers watching ballot boxes 24/7?
I don't
You have
know
any
what
thoughts
they're
on that?
doing in Virginia. I have no idea what they're doing in the Commonwealth. All I can state is in Prince George's County. And so, yes, there are a lot of really strange things going on. That's all I can say. But all I can say is in Prince George's County, I'm not talking about Virginia, we're talking about here. I know for a fact there will be security at the polls. And, Virginia has had a lot of issues. They've got definitely a lot of Republicans, a lot of Democrats. So the dynamics are a little bit different in Virginia and the Commonwealth than in Prince George's County. Not saying that that can't happen here, but I know that there will be secure officers and things like that. And also I do want to mention, intimidation at the polls and voter disenfranchisement and voter suppression, that's illegal. That should not be happening at any polling place. So please reach out to the Board of Elections. There are going to be numbers that you can use so that you can report that if someone is trying to intimidate you at the polls. The number, and I'll give it to you before we leave, because I want to make sure I give you the accurate information. Make sure you have that when you go to the polls along with your ballot if you decide to go. Don't let anyone intimidate you or tell you you can't vote or whatever else, you also don't have to have an ID. They will ask you some information so that you can clarify your identity, but you don't have to have a Maryland ID to actually vote. And if they do, then I would call the voter suppression hotline.
And
Any questions?
And Monica, so I have a question, but then another question just came in, so I'll ask you that one first. What are the voting hours at Bowie State University? Is it like every other polling place? And if so, what were those hours, please?
As far as I know, 7 a.m. until 8 p.m. Yeah, they'll be the same, 7 a.m. until 8 p.m. And so that'll be from Tuesday from October the 26th through November the 3rd.
Perfect. And then I have a question for you. Well, actually, I guess it's two questions. So the first question is it too late for anyone that would like to be an election judge to be an election judge? And if it's not, can you explain that process to, our Bowie State University students and how they can make, I don't know, a couple $100 being out there and helping out?
Yeah, they can definitely earn a little change to be an election judge. Right now, they have enough people. But if you want to sign up, you can go to the Board of Election website. I think right now they have the number of people that they need, and they didn't need as many this year just because of the number of polling places. But in years past, it's $200 for a regular judge and then $250. And basically, your main responsibility is to check people in as they come in to vote and make sure everything runs smoothly in the polling place. If you're a chief judge, then you run the numbers at the end of the night and return those numbers and returns of who voted and how many people voted and things like that to the Board of Elections. So for right now, they have enough people, but thank you for asking. Are there any other questions? And then I'll go to the next segment once we're done with the questions here.
Okay, perfect. I have one more question for you, Monica. And that question, two questions actually just came in. The first question is, does the Bowie State University have to be my assigned polling place? And then the second question is, if I am a student, can I vote at any polling location? So I guess those are kind of like two of the same questions.
Yeah, so if they're a student and they live in Maryland, they're registered in Maryland, then they can vote at any polling place. If it's a student that is their home residence is out of state, then they need to vote absentee ballot because they could lose like a scholarship or something like that. If they're here, they're living here, but they're from New York and that's their permanent resident, then they need to vote absentee ballot. But if they are registered here and this is their home and they live in Bowie or Lanham or whatever else, they can vote at any polling place. They don't have to vote at Bowie State. They can vote anywhere.
Thank you, Monica. As of now, those are the only questions that I have. So please feel free to move forward with your next segment. Thank you again.
The next segment is securing your vote. So I'm just going to talk about ways why some ballots are rejected. And the main one is not signing your ballot. Okay, you need to make sure that you sign your ballot. You need to make sure that you only put one ballot in an envelope. And you also need to make sure that they get it by November the 3rd. They have to get it by the time that it is due, and it has to be postmarked by that time. So that's really, really important because in the primary, we had hundreds of ballots that were actually rejected. All right, and you don't want your ballot rejected. Just really easy things, sign it and make sure it's in your envelope and then make sure it's postmarked by the correct date. The voting and the counting process. So that will be coming up. We will be canvassing, and I'm really excited about that. And that may be something that you guys want to check out. So canvassing and counting, canvassing is basically counting ballots, okay? And so as a member of the Board of Election, we are the Board of Canvassers, which means we oversee the process. So they have, with every counting process, they have a Republican and a Democrat, and they look at the ballots and then they count the ballots just to make sure that they're counted properly. And so this is going to be live streamed, and it's open to the general public just for transparency purposes, to make sure that let the public know that everything is done in the right way, that ballots are being scanned properly, and that they're being counted properly. We will be canvassing at Lake Arbor Community Center starting actually next Tuesday. October the 13th. And so the general public is welcome to come. There will be very, very limited space, but they can also go online and they can view the whole process. There'll be lots of people sitting in a room. They're going to be going through the ballots. They're going to be looking at the ballots, checking to make sure that they're filled out properly and that kind of thing. So that's basically how the voting canvas, voting counting works. And it'll be going on actually for a whole month. It'll be going on. So I want people to know the earlier you vote, the better, because that way we can announce the results on election day. So the earlier you get these ballots in, the quicker and the faster that we can announce that we don't have just the presidential election. Of course, we have circuit court judge, we have Congress in some areas, we have school board races. So the earlier you get your ballot in, the better. I'm gonna stop there because it says questions and answers.
Sure. Thank you, Monica. You're the best. So I had one question come in, and the student wanted to know if there was, I'm assuming, a link or a flyer for the event that you were just talking about at Lake Arbor, or where they can go and find that.
Yeah, you know what? We haven't gotten the link yet, but Juwan, I'll share it with you, and that's great. Definitely, I would love for a student to sit in, and you may have seen it even on the news. You know, sometimes we see like people in Florida, the counting chads. It's the same process. We're sitting at tables and we're counting the ballots. And I also want to welcome you all to come to when we have meetings. It's totally open to the public. It's just a transparent process. You can come, you can sit in, you can listen. We normally don't take questions from the public, but you are welcome to come. It's a transparent process. So just remind me and I'll share the link with you.
I appreciate that, Monica. And students, you heard it here. Open invitation.
It's open. Yes, please come. Represent BSU. Okay, so the next segment I'm going to just talk about, and I was asked to talk about, this is taking me back to my days when I taught social studies in middle school. Okay, so I'm going to be talking here about the popular vote in the Electoral College, and I hope I don't confuse anybody. Let me get my notes out. So the United States, the way that they do their elections is through the Electoral College, okay? And so you are voting for electors. The popular vote is the total number of votes that are cast. The Electoral College is not looking at the popular vote, is looking at the actual electors. Now, the problem with the Electoral College is it's a winner take all. So let's say we have 50 people and 50 citizens or voters in a state for just example purposes. We have 50 voters in a state, and let's say 12 of them vote for Democrat and 8 vote for Republican. The problem with the Electoral College is it negates the vote of the people who actually did vote one way. So the Republicans, all of the electors would go toward the majority. All right, so the popular vote, Hillary Clinton had the popular vote in 2016, but she still lost the election. And the reason why is she won in areas that were heavily populated. And so that was California and New York. And so they are states that have a lot of people. But President Trump, he won in other states, but they also have a lower population, but they also have electoral votes there. They also have electoral electors in those states. And so what it comes down to really is being strategic for some candidates to make sure that they focus on these swing states, because certain states will automatically go Democratic, like Maryland and California and New York. But the other states in between, sometimes they can go either way. That's why they call them swing states. Sometimes they go red and sometimes they go blue. But all of those states have electors. And so when we're voting through this democratic process, I would prefer a one person, one vote. One person, one vote. And I think that way is best, because some people, that's why they kind of lose interest in voting, because they feel like their vote really doesn't count. When it's winner takes all, people feel like, well, my vote's not going to count anyway. And you know, the reason why that is the case, they think that way, is because it's a winner take all. Whoever has the most votes, the electors will cast their vote for that candidate or that party. And so that's the best way that I can explain it. Maryland has, every state has 2 electors for their senators, and then the number of Congress people that they have in their state. So that's the number. So Maryland, I want to say, is like maybe 12, but I'm going to need somebody to Google that for me. If Vincent Harrington is still around, I don't know, but Maryland is like between 10 and 12. And so that's when we're casting our vote, we're actually casting it to go towards 10 electoral college votes when they have the presidential. And so they need 270 votes to win. It's 500 and I believe 538 or something like that. But the number to actually win the presidency is 270. So if you know that you need 270, and you know, if you're a Democrat and you know that you already have California, you have New York, and you have some other, then you just go from there and work on those other areas that you don't have. But that's it in a nutshell. The popular vote is a total number of votes cast, and the electoral college are the people who represent the votes, and they're the electors, which represent the number of people in the Senate and then the Congress. So I hope I didn't confuse anyone. Hope I didn't confuse anybody, but try to explain that as best I can. And I'm open for any questions.
No, thank you, Monica. And just to reiterate one more time, so looks like you said about 10 electors in the state of Maryland. You said these electors are these elected officials that are ultimately making the final vote on behalf of a candidate that the majority of people are in support of, for example, in the state of Maryland? Or how does that work? Just one more time, as far as who the actual elector is.
Yeah, you know, and that's a good question, because I'm not sure who the actual electors are. They are, I believe they're appointed, and I believe they're appointed by the governor. So let's say, okay, Governor Hogan is governor, and he says, well, I want Juwan to be an elector. I want Monica to be an elector. And so 10 of us have the right to cast those. If we have 10 electoral college votes, then we would cast our 10 towards the party that had the majority. And so when we're voting, we're actually voting for, you know, because it's winner takes all in the state of Maryland. So the majority party would get the number of electoral votes that our state has. And so, like, for example, California has 55 electoral college votes. And that's a lot. They have 55. And so whenever they vote, all of those votes go towards those 55, which then go towards the 270. So ours is a small number, like California is really large, but that 55, that goes to the 270. But they need more votes to actually win. Yeah, they need, you know, 270. So they have to go, you know, try to pick up a candidate who wants to win has to pick up a number of different votes from throughout the country to actually win the presidency. And it came very close, but President Trump, most of his electoral college votes came in the middle of the United States.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, thank you again, Monica, for this amazing overview. Did have one more question for you before we wrap up and move to the next segment. But another question came in too. How can I ensure my mail-in ballot is received by the Board of Elections? Is there a tracking system, or, you know, can I call? Or?
Yeah, there is a tracking system. Actually, if you look on the back of your envelope, there's a link, and you can just go there and you can track it. So just make sure that before you mail it, take a picture. Before you mail it, I would take a picture of my ballot. I would take a picture of the envelope, And then once I mail it, then you can go and track it. So don't just mail it. Yeah, you need to take a picture of it and take a picture of your ballot as well.
And, you know, as a member of the Board of Elections, but then also an educator yourself, you know, let's say I'm a student right now, I'm listening to everything you're saying, and I'm like, this is great. But, you know, how do I, as a student at Bowie State University, if I know technically my vote counts, but it sort of doesn't, or it's kind of like in the middle, then why do you think, you know, it's important for myself as a young person, or young people at Bowie State University, to not sit out on the sidelines and decide to get involved and vote?
Oh yeah, we definitely can't sit out on the sidelines. This is not even an option. So with Maryland, I will say in our great state of Maryland, I believe our vote always counts. It's if you're a Democrat anyway, because the majority of people in the state are Democrat. And I don't mean to say that in a partisan way, but if you're a Democrat, then those electoral college votes will be going towards a Democrat, because normally the state of Maryland is blue when it comes to the presidency. So your vote will be counted. So in addition to the presidency, we still have the local elections, and they're extremely important. They make some really important decisions. We have the circuit court. So don't throw your ballot away. Do not throw your vote away because of the electoral college. I'm hoping that it will be revamped at some point in time, because I just believe in one person, one vote, period. But there's still a lot of other races down ballot. If you decide, well, I don't want to vote for this office, then, you know, we have circuit court judge, we have president, we have, you know, other races there. So the main thing is, if we want to see a change, if we are serious about seeing a change, then we have to vote. Because we're not going to see a change if we don't participate in the change. It's like exercise. You know, we have to do something for something to actually happen. And voting is a participatory type of thing. You have to actually do it to see a change.
Monica, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Really enjoyed the insight, learned a lot, very insightful. I am now going to switch gears a little bit, and I am going to bring it back, or give the floor back to Mr. Harrington and Ms. Lee to talk about registering to vote and an on-campus initiative that both of them have been working on here at the illustrious BSU, Bowie State University. Mr. Harrington, Ms. Lee.
Thank you. Vincent, why don't you go ahead and start with voter registration, and I'll share the other exciting news as well.
Certainly. So in reference to being a registered voter, as Ms. Roebuck gave a robust talking points about just the fact that we want you guys to be involved. So as MPA students and as Pi Alpha Alpha inductees, it's our job to bring about and spawn different initiatives. So we want you all to be able to register at Bowie State as well, if you're not already a registered voter. And again, as we went through the entire process, making sure that you all are being able to be engaged, whether that's absentee or being able to vote on campus. So we're privileged enough to be able to have Mr. Blocker take in all the information, and we have effectively a data dump that we'll be able to do to disseminate out to you all in reference to time, location for you all to be able to register. And as a function of that, just a snippet, understanding that we are in a predominantly Democratic state, and albeit, you know, Maryland might be blue, it's a situation where, you know, if you have a loved one who's getting married and you know the, formality of the ceremony is going to be wonderful, you still attend, right? And so even though, you know, the state might be blue, you still attend, because that popular vote speaks to whatever it is and whoever that individual is that you're passionate and supportive of. So every vote does count. Every vote is a voice. And so as a function of that, we're going to encourage you all to be active and give you the tools to do so. So I'll pivot to Ms. Lee to be able to delve a little deeper.
Thank you so much. So I'm so excited to announce this campaign that Pi Alpha Alpha has come up with. And with the approval of everyone, we're glad to announce an Instagram voter drive contest. So we're calling all Bowie State University students. The goal is, while you're outside of the voter polling station or mailing your ballot, we want you to take a picture of you completing your civic duty. The most creative and the most liked picture will win each a $100 digital Amazon gift card. That's a lot of money. You can go far with Amazon Student Prime. So I know that could bless somebody. The contest will start October the 13th and it will run through November 3rd. So I'm sure you're asking, well, how do I get my picture up there? What I want to do this. You're going to submit your picture to the BSU Student Life IG message. So you can just DM them your picture. Once they post it, the most liked picture and the most creative picture will split each a $100 gift card. So that's $200 total. This package is worth $200. So each student will win a $100 gift card. And we want to showcase Bowie State students having their voice heard at the polls. So this is to get you guys out, share this. There will be a flyer dropped at every organization. We want you guys to get involved and make sure that your voice is heard. And especially after the information that was shared tonight, we literally broke it down for you. So I know all of these people on here are resources and information definitely will be shared. You can play back the link just to understand what you're truly trying to say. So thank you guys.
Ms. Lee and Mr. Harrington, I just personally want to thank you all so much for the work that you all are doing. It's a breath of fresh air, I'll tell you that. So again, can you give BSU students again the date, the beginning, the start of the contest, and the end just one more time?
Okay, so the contest will start October 13th and run all the way through November 3rd, which is the actual voting day. You're going to submit your picture to the BSU Student Life IG handle. They'll post it, and once it's posted, the most liked picture and the most creative picture voted upon will each get a $100 digital Amazon gift card.
Thank you again, Ms. Lee, and thank you, Mr. Harrington. With that being said, I am going to go ahead and turn this back over to Ms. Turner. And again, just want to thank all of our amazing panelists for being here and the hard work that you all are doing to make sure that BSU students are active and engaged when it comes to this upcoming election and moving forward. Thank you, guys. Ms. Turner.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jawan. Thank you for being our moderator this evening. Thank you, Vincent and Janine and Monica. You guys provided such exceptional information. I've been getting texts about how what great communicators you are and just how helpful the details are. Some of us didn't have great civics education or we may be too old to remember it all. So Ms. Roebuck, thank you so much for sharing those details. We needed that refresher. And for those of us who are new voters, this is such great information for you guys to really be able to take your voice to the ballot, to the voting booth, whether you drop it in a box, if you choose to mail it, if you, however you bring it in, bring your voice and bring your vote on or before November 3rd, so that we can exercise that right that our ancestors bled and died for, they fought for. I want to say again, a very special thank you to all of our guests. Earlier this evening, we had Ms. Charnel Ferguson, Mr. Martin Mitchell, Mr. Ryan Washington, Mayor Sean Malden. In the background, we have Ms. Janae Carpenter, who has done a lot of legwork to get this event set up for today. Thank you. Ms. Annette Wedderburn, who is helping us on the technical side. There's so many people who've contributed to this event. Dr. Deborah Bailey, I want to say thank you, Dr. Bailey. I hope you're out there listening with your students. And as you guys heard, there are 2 $100 prizes on the line. So I really, we want to see those Instagram photos. We want to see you making that voting experience. I think make it family and make it fun. That's our little slogan for that. So Bowie State University Bulldogs, our 24 karat gold freshman class. If you're 18, register and vote. If you're older than 18, I know you're registered and I know you're going to vote. thank you again so much. Bowie State University loves you. And to Dr. Bro and to Dr. Goodman, our president and provost, thank you so much for this opportunity. God bless you, everyone, and good night.